And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Media Network here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center, deep in the heart of the city we love, Providence, Rhode Island. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. On the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. Of course, the mothership at Coalition Radio US. If you haven't noticed, just this last couple of days, we started what we call a Coalition-a-thon. And while we're not going to subject you to the interminable, and often terminal abuses of public radio, we are on a little bit of a fundraising kick. You'll see links at the top of our Facebook page to our new Patreon page, where you can support the show. Or if you're an independent business person out there and you'd like to advertise here on Coalition Radio, thousands of people a week will be treated to live links to your website, live links on our website, as well as video opportunities to promote your product. Independent media relies largely on the contributions of individuals and the support of local businesses. We've been blessed for several years now as we approach our 5th anniversary. Incredibly nice. Yes, 5 years of this intense third rail, outrage porn-free video and audio, covering really the most challenging topics here, both in Rhode Island, New England, and the nation at large. But as I like to say, we've been blessed by having Yacht Club Soda, air scientists, and of course our special friends at Beacon Shipping and Logistics, literally from the very beginning, helping us support our efforts. Doing this is not inexpensive. It's time-consuming, but it's a labor of love, and we live to do this. It is our passion. But if you could take a moment and help us out there. And as always, if you haven't liked our Facebook page or you're not following us on Twitter, please take a moment to do so. That gives us it's a very inexpensive way to promote our points, our issues, and the Coalition way of life. It's a chilly night here in the Naked City, the city of 1,000 stories, Providence, Rhode Island. But the issues have never been hotter. This week, we obviously saw last night the end of step 1 of, if you will, incorporating into Rhode Island law, Roe v. Wade. Your host last night attended a hearing surrounding universal pre-K. We are launching now into the most challenging part of the legislative year. This is where the trial balloons are floated, initial budget issues are discussed, and stealth attacks on your civil liberties, your wallet, and your livelihoods are being planned. Your host plans on being up at Halitosis Hall, aka Mordor, right, a couple times a week. We'll do what we did last time, which is broadcast live from right inside the hearing space. You don't have to wait for Capitol TV to decide to cover it or not. You'll see it here live with the usual irreverent, annoying, self-absorbent commentary provided by both your host as well as our leaders, as we like to say, elected and, well, self-appointed. One of the issues that we're going to be covering at length again, here we go again, folks, is of course something called the soda tax. Now, if you look behind me, don't change that dial. Yes, a Yacht Club label is not up there. Now, Yacht Club is still the official beverage, if you will, of the Coalition. It is Rhode Island's finest soda. I will, in deference to our special guest tonight, I will step back, if you will, from the usual universal platitudes that I accord the Zambato family and their soda. I still believe them, but we are, if nothing else, polite to our guests. It seems like, and it's become apparent, that Rhode Island is not the only state involved in this type of madness. I want to introduce Rob Metz. Of course, he is with Avery's Soda. And it seems like our brothers/sisters directly to the left of us in the great state of Connecticut, the nutmeg state, have not learned from the nearly trampling-like, cattle-like exit from the state of Connecticut in terms of major businesses. They're hell-bent, if you will, to tax what businesses are left. So since GE ain't around, per se, to take the pain anymore, it would appear that great companies, locally owned, like Avery Soda, are the next ones under attack. Rob, welcome for the first time to the Coalition.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well, and I hope you don't mind, right now I'm quaffing, if you will, a cream Yacht Club soda. So cheers to the great soda makers of the world. Who knew that there were more than one boutique soda here that's got the kind of history your company does. Tell us a little bit about Avery's and the history and how you got today and your kind of unique, irreverent take on different flavors.
Sure. Well, God, there's a lot to cover right there. But as far as history, there used to in Rhode Island, and Connecticut, all over New England, all over the U.S. There used to be, each state had hundreds of little bottlers just like us back in the day. 40, 50, 60 years ago, and each town had their own little soda bottle, kind of like all the microbreweries popping up in every town now. It's how it used to be with soda, and they've all gone away because of economics and things like that. So only the best of the best are still around now.
Right.
So I'll put Yacht Club and us in that same category, and it's due to a number of factors, but there's just a few of us around. There's probably maybe a dozen of us in New England. There's some in Massachusetts. There's 3 of us in Connecticut here, and so that's kind of the history. There's a few of us left around. Independent bottlers still left around, and our little niche, I guess, is we've a couple of little niches, but one of it is we do a line of totally gross soda, which things like dog drool and toxic slime and unicorn yak, things like that. So it's real popular with the probably the 8 to 18-year-old demographic, but we have a lot of fun with that. And then the other thing that we fool around with is we do some political stuff, and it kind of started about what was it? I can't do the math real quick, but for the first time that Barack Obama ran for president, and it was a pretty big deal, and it was historic and all that. So we decided to kind of keep track of the election with a straw poll. So we made a Barack Berry flavor and a John McCream, and for John McCain, and we kept track of how many we sold of each, and did a little straw poll, and we posted our results on Facebook before the election, and for all 3 elections, including the last one, we called the election accurately before it actually happened. So we're kind of proud of that.
How long have you actually been in business?
Avery's been here for 115 years, since 1904. So we're the oldest in Connecticut. We're maybe a couple of years older than Yacht Club, but not too much.
Are there any other original bottlers left? I know there's this sort of move. The hipsters amongst us, God bless them, are trying to catch up with you guys. It seems like based on their efforts, they've got about 100 years to go. But is there any others of these generational soda bottlers left?
There are. There actually there's 2 of them are close by. One in Massachusetts, there's Simpson Springs, which may be the oldest in the country. But there's another one up in Newfields, New Hampshire, which is the same family. The family that started it, the Connors, started it in around the Civil War, and the same family's been running that operation for what, maybe 5 generations now.
Wow.
So if they're not the oldest family run. So those 2 are way older than Avery's is, and so there's a few holdouts still around.
Wow. So tell us about, so you've got essentially 2 lines. You've got your traditional soda. We've got a picture up right now of Shutdown Swill. And you've also got a rather plain-spoken plea to your governor, who is, I believe, Ned Lamont.
Yes, our fearless leader. Yeah, we every once in a while, when something hits a news cycle long enough, besides the presidential elections, when something hits a news cycle long enough for us to be tired of it, that's when we decided it's time to make a soda for it. So when the government shutdown looked like it was going to become historic, we decided to make a shutdown Swill soda, and it's if you got a picture of it up there, it's green, and because it was all about money, and had a picture of Donald Trump behind a wall because it was all about the wall, and we made it. The flavor was a blue raspberry and I believe it was blue raspberry and orange, but we added like a ton of citric acid in there because we wanted it to be really bitter. And for those folks who were out of work all that time, I think it was. But so we had a lot of fun with that, got a lot of press with that, and that was a fun thing. And we try not to do too many of these right in a row. But when we found out that our new governor was going to, besides raising the sales tax on just about everything, there used to be a lot of stuff that was exempt, but putting sales tax on everything, he decided he's going to implement a 1.5 cent per ounce tax on soda, which would be pretty devastating to us. I mean, we sell a case of soda for maybe $16.
Right.
So that's going to add over $4. You're going to be, over $20.50 for a case of soda now.
Right.
And I just don't think. Well, I'm sure it would not be good for business. I mean, there's some loyal folks that would still stick by us. I just can't imagine it would be good for us.
Now, in the case of the Connecticut legislation, what are they possibly using as justification? Because this is essentially constructed, I believe, as literally a laser-like attempt to put you out of business. It really can't be construed as much else.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if it's an attack specifically on us, but they claim it's for health reasons that they want to do that, and just for the life of me, I can't understand how you can pick one particular food group as being unhealthy. I mean, why not go after fast food? Why not tax pizza? I mean, I just can't imagine that one food group are going to solve all the problems, and it's just about money. And it's another way to say it. I think they can. It'd be a really big revenue producer for them, and they say, well, we can cloak it in trying to make everybody healthier and everything else, but it's a money grab as far as I'm concerned.
And this seems to be the fundamental disconnect with government in general. If they effectively diminish your operation to the point where it becomes borderline to stay in business, how do they expect to get much revenue? That's.
I don't really think they're going after us, the little independent guys. They're looking at Coke and Pepsi and saying,
right.
Okay, they're right. Big companies, they can absorb this, and they wouldn't even blink. And so I don't look at it as an attack on us personally, but the bottom line is it's certainly going to affect us.
Right. Now, where I'd like to put the light, if you will, is to the actual content of the respective products. And again, I'm not here certainly to demonize any of the large soda manufacturers, even though during our promotions for Mr. Giambato's line, we implore people not to drink the refinery sodas, which are flown over Greater Rhode Island in C-130s, tanker trucks, and sprayed to an indiscriminate audience below. But to me, the big lie is the quality and the content of your soda versus literally just about any other consumer drink, including some of these canned iced teas and products that may or may not be exempt. Talk about your manufacturing process, because that to me is the real beauty.
Yeah, a lot of it gets into the whole sugar versus corn sweetener debate. And there's a lot of. I've been taken to task by the Corn Sweetener Association for calling it nasty corn sweeteners and calling it other things like that. So with registered letters and everything else. But I'm a proponent of real sugar is good, and one of the other things I like to say is, drink craft soda, not crap soda. And that's what you get when you buy something from John or something from us. You're getting something that's made in small batches. It's made with care by people that care about it. I mean, we make, I don't know how much soda John makes, but here at Avery's, we make probably half as much soda in a year than your typical Coke or Pepsi plant makes in a day.
Right.
So it's just a huge difference in how it's made and the care that goes into it.
Well, and speak to that, because while you've got these these hysterically funny, and I'm looking forward to trying some of these hysterically funny sodas that are just political art and theater unto themselves. Let's say for example, what's the strength of your line? I mean, for example, I'm a fanatic about John's root beer and cream sodas. I'm as old school as it gets when it comes to soda. His ginger ale, his root beer, and his cream sodas are just delicious. I mean, it's a throwback to a bygone era when real flavors were used, and again they're served in clear, crisp bottles, which is, as far as I'm concerned, is the only way soda should ever be served, directly from the refrigerator in a glass bottle to a glass, if you will. That's how soda should be. And on a hot day, we skip the glass.
Oh, right. You're right out of the bottle, definitely. Because you get to drain the whole thing.
Yeah, one shot, baby. One shot.
Yeah.
I during the day, I spent time on about 100-acre or so facility, which is, where there's lots of glass and chrome, and it seems like they follow me. They literally follow me around the lot. It's kind of astonishing. And I will tell you, there is nothing better than either one of John's ginger ales. So, first of all, what are your on your conventional line? What are your favorite brands? And talk to me about the manufacturing process, because this is what seals the deal, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, as far as my favorites and what the two top sellers for us are birch beer and cream. I mean, they just fly out of here. We just can't keep them in stock. So those we have to have on all the time. Otherwise, we have a little insurrection going on here. After the birch beer and cream, root beer, black cherry, orange, and maybe the lemon lime are probably the next top sellers. Birch beer's always been a favorite of mine. Root beer's always a favorite. But it moves around a lot. Like I've been on a raspberry kick lately, and I've always loved a good ginger ale. So my favorites move around a little bit, but those are the ones that out of the other ones we have here. Then we have some other stuff that's a little more esoteric. We do a watermelon soda that just tastes like watermelon juice, carbonated watermelon. It's great. A peach soda that has this aroma, just like a fresh peach. It's just another one of my favorites. Gosh.
And where by the way do you get your flavorings from? I mean, there are the skyline of New Jersey and Delaware is dotted with refineries developing artificial flavors. Where do you folks actually get your other product from besides your water?
Well, there's probably about 4 or 5 different flavor houses across the country that we deal with, and there's specific flavors we get from certain people. One of them is right there in Rhode Island, actually, that I know John uses quite a bit too. And then we get from them we get all of our oranges and our black cherry and our grapefruit flavorings, because they're natural flavorings and they're high juice content. They're just really super flavoring. So we get some from a company there in Rhode Island. There's a company in Wisconsin we deal with. There's one in New Jersey. So it all depends on the flavor where we buy it from, because we kind of search out ones that we like, and the other part of this is we've been buying flavors from these companies for 50, 60 years, and we're reluctant to change because people like our flavors, and so we're reluctant to change anything that's not broken.
Right. I mean, these are formulas that are excruciatingly, if you will, engineered, for lack of a better term. Do you do that for the company?
Yes and no. I mean, if you were to come up into our mixing room and see our flavor, our little recipe box that has all the flavors in, for the most part, most of them are on these low index cards with an old manual. You can tell an old manual typewriter typed them out, and so we're using the same formulas that have been used for a couple generations.
Right. Wow. And what goes into engineering a new flavor? Now, for example, on some of your political ones, I mean, just how much is involved in that?
That's really the fun part. We start off, with we'll think about, okay, what color should it be? and then we figure out what flavors we need to combine to get to that color sometimes, or sometimes we'll make a subtle political statement with the flavor itself. We did a flavor when Osama bin Laden got taken out, and that flavor was blood orange soda. And so it all depends on what it is. But we put a lot of thought, and a lot of the we get a lot of input from our customers. We put it out on Facebook to get suggestions, a lot of times names and things like that. So we kind of crowdsource as much as we can, because we're not all geniuses here.
I would dispute that. I would dispute that. It's interesting. If you're just joining us, we're with the folks from Avery Soda. They're in Connecticut. First of all, how widespread is your distribution? Where can folks buy Avery Soda?
Oh gosh, I don't know if we have much distribution in Rhode Island. There, we're in a lot of. We're probably in 30, 40 states. We don't know exactly where it ends up because we deal through a bunch of distributors. So we have about 10 distributors across the country, and so we don't know where it's going to end up. But gosh, we're in a lot of states. Just not sure about Rhode Island.
All right, fair enough. And by the way, one of the most understated pairings, as far as I'm concerned, with a soda like yours and John's, is with deli. Now, understand, if you're from the greater New York metropolitan area, as I am, deli is a adverb, it is a verb, it is a noun, it is an adjective, it is a sport, it is a way of life. When you look at the great sandwiches in America, the great pastrami's from Brooklyn and Manhattan, from the old line delis like Katz's, if you look at some of the roast beef establishments that are sort of sprinkled throughout New England, these are the important foods of life. Screw the modernist French interpretations, the American bistro cooking. No. All right, we're talking sandwiches here, okay? And what nothing is better with a really great sandwich, all right, than a soda like this. It's just a natural. Quite frankly, I may be a heathen here, but I would prefer a really high quality root beer with a sandwich like that, or a cream soda in particular with some of the deli classics, than I would a beer, because it just seems to pair with it perfectly. It brings back memories of a long ago time when people would go into any one of you go into towns like Hartford and Providence and Boston, and there would be great local delis literally on every corner, where meats were carved, unique recipes for roast beef and pastrami in particular. It's really a throwback, which is, by the way, why I get a kick out of the hipsters trying to imitate the art that folks like you and John have perfected literally over generations. It's great stuff.
Well, you just hit on something there that what we're selling with John and us. It's a product that takes you back to a more simpler time, when things were not as hectic, things were not as rush as they are, and it just takes you back to a simpler time. And both Yacht Club and Avery's have that authenticity that you just can't get with a hipster soda company that's starting up with herbal roots and whatever junk they put in there.
Right. I've had some pretty bad root beers. As someone who considers themselves an aficionado of the art, I've had some pretty bad root beers over the last year or two, which, by the way, were often exponentially more expensive than the product like Avery's or a product like Yacht Club. I mean, kid you not, you're going to pay a slight premium for literally, I'll misappropriate their words, handcrafted, curated sodas like yours. Did you ever hear anyone talk about your soda being curated, by the way?
Curated, wow.
but ultimately, and this is funny. I think we kind of nailed something here. A soda like yours is such a inexpensive pleasure compared to life as it exists now. It's just such an inexpensive, genuine pleasure that can be had so easily through the miracle of American capitalism, if you will. Um, I don't want to see that snuffed out because of simply a money grab, or by people who are going to, I call them up here in Rhode Island the human scolds that exist up here. Um, when in fact, and let's conversely, let's go to the refinery sodas. Um, we're not taking shots at any one manufacturer, but you talk about using, John talks about using cane sugar in your soda. What's typically involved in a plastic jug O soda that you get at the big time supermarket? What kind of chemicals are involved in flavors?
Gosh, you're. I haven't had one of those in 20 years, so I'm not exactly. Besides the corn sweeteners, and I don't know what else is in there, but they've the two biggest things that turn me off from the big manufacturers are the corn sweeteners and then the plastic bottle.
Right.
And Lord knows what's leaching out of that plastic bottle into the soda, but and the corn sweetener. So those are the two things that I really object to it. But I'd say glass bottles and real sugar are the way to go.
Right. And now, what about ginger ale? Do you you say you've got a righteous ginger ale. Where do you source the flavorings for your ginger ale?
Well, we have 3 different kinds of ginger ales. We have a pale dry, which is your normal ginger ale. We have a what's called a golden ginger ale, which is sweeter and spicier. For anybody that's out in the Midwest, if they've ever heard of a Verner's ginger ale, our golden ginger ale is similar to that. Mm-hmm. And then we do a ginger beer, which is very spicy.
Right.
But those are the 3 we do. We currently buy the ginger ale from each different one from 3 different manufacturers. One of them, unfortunately, in New Jersey, has kind of gone away. So we've been talking to another one of our suppliers to find something to replace that. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Right. And so, and by the way, if we're talking, and we're trying to think summertime here in New England, because I have a feeling the weather pattern right here is very similar to the weather pattern there. If you haven't tried and I'll use another one of the hipsters' words, artisanal root beer with a root beer float, then quite frankly, you haven't lived. A great vanilla ice cream with root beer, really again, a high quality vanilla ice cream. Again, not the crap that's kind of pounded out by the container load. Again, simple life's pleasures. It's really alternate realities, aren't they?
It doesn't get any better than that. And you got to put the ice cream in last.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, what type of heathen? I'm thinking the type of person who puts ketchup on a hot dog probably pours the root beer on last. There's certain things and behaviors that we have to put to an end. I think that qualifies under the pineapple on a pizza argument. Things that nature abhors, whether it's in a vacuum or not. Last but not least, there's the economic impact of local manufacturers. An organization like yours, I'm assuming, first of all, do you use a local water source? Is there a particular water source that you employ for your sodas?
Well, yes. Well, we two. For bottle washing and rinsing and all that kind of stuff, we use the local city water. But for all the soda, all the water that goes into the bottle all comes from a well on the property here.
Right.
So and the local water is really good water. I wouldn't have a problem using it, but we've been using the same well for over 115 years, and so we're not going to change anything.
Right. So again, think crisp, clear well water as just that final step. So you're a very local manufacturer. I mean, you're doing everything Are you doing it primarily within one location?
Everything's all in one location. Same as pretty much about the same size bottling areas as John's place over at Yacht Club.
Right. So, what does that say to the local economy? What in terms of local jobs, property taxes, insurances, things like that? I mean, you know, if we continue to lose local businesses like that, what impact does that have on the hyperlocal economy and what you represent?
Some people look and say, okay, well, he's got 4 full-time employees and maybe another half a dozen part-time employees. It's not a big deal. But if you start killing off all these little businesses like this, and all you have are a few chain stores around and a few, you got to go to the supermarket for everything. It's just, it's not going to be sustainable. You can't kill off of it. I don't know the statistics, but a majority of the revenue that's generated is from small businesses.
Mm-hmm. So you've got, I call it the circle of life business style. You're buying flavorings from highly specialized, probably closely held businesses in local areas. You're buying your glass and your product probably to a certain degree from closely held companies. You're talking about being able to be an additional revenue source for traditionally smaller businesses, delis. Now, in your case, you've got distribution, a significant distribution outside of Connecticut. But for each one of those places that buys your product, it's an opportunity to distinguish their local business and elevate, whether it be a deli, a restaurant, a local bar. I will tell you from locally, one of the hipsters and their newfound obsession with craft beverages have been wonderful for John's business, because folks see these as the premier local mixer to use with premier beverages at great restaurants. And so it's very much part of the foodie chain all of a sudden. Traditionally, some of the oldest beverages manufactured in New England. So at every single level, we have to stop and understand that products like yours and John's add significant value, both at the manufacturing level, with all the different products that we're talking about sources. You add value at the local level. I mean, John is just wonderful with local charities and organizations, supporting them very often with donations, and just a fixture on the local school picnic scene and things like that. You're adding value in terms of local employees. And for everyone who says, well, it's only 10 people, well, try talking to those 10 families and ask them how important it is in today's tumultuous economy to have long-term employment with a closely held family manufacturer. I'd say it's pretty damn important. And at the same time, it's a reflection on the local community. I mean, the folks out here in Rhode Island, we're a tribal bunch, very provincial, fiercely protective of our local companies, and it's actually a great thing. And when last year, when the Rhode Island legislature attempted their annual misguided attempt at targeting soda manufacturers, or sweet beverages as they like to call it, George Carlin would have a field day. People rose up. People were just appalled. Oddly enough, it quite frankly rekindled in certain people who said, I hadn't had a yacht club in a couple of years. Well, we made sure they knew where to get it. Because ultimately, the very best way to oppose madness like that is, number one, people need to make their presence felt politely at their local salon, legislator, or self-appointed leader. And number two, the best way to support a local product like that is actually just go out and buy it in copious quantities. When we talk about different times of the year, we're actually approaching St. Patrick's Day and then Easter, and at a dinner like a St. Patrick's Day boil or corned beef, again, people are going to spend enormous amounts of money and time either going out or locally, procuring foods to make a very special dinner. So we always say, don't pollute it with a refinery soda. Take that one little extra step for folks who might not be beer drinkers. Give them an option. Give folks who maybe want to have just 1 or 2 beers, give them an option of something really tasty, all right, to complement all the effort that you made in dinner. Easter dinner, perfect example.
That's exactly right.
folks are going to spend an enormous amount of money promoting an Easter dinner or a Passover Seder or any one of a number of religious holidays that are critically important to their family. It's a one time a year they get together. I mean, don't settle, don't spend all this money and effort and then just settle for some swill in a, in a plastic bottle.
That's exactly right. And one of the things that we see here around all the big holidays is that, New Britain is their tagline is the place to be. And I think it really should be the place to be from, because there's so many folks that have escaped and gone to all over parts of the country. But when they come back for holidays, they always stop by because when they want a little piece of their childhood and want to remember. So when they have their Christmas dinner, their Easter dinner, they want to have some Avery's there, which is great for us.
Right. And how important, how many times do you see, we've seen it at Yacht Club, where someone comes back home, because again, Rhode Island is, and the part of Connecticut you're in is very similar. It's, folks who are not from Connecticut tend to think of Greenwich and they think of Hartford, and there's this great, wonderful world, both in northwestern and Litchfield County and down by you folks, and up on the eastern shores, which are literally states unto themselves, separate worlds from the rest of Connecticut. And how much fun is it to see someone bringing in their tot, all right, and showing them, hey, this is what I drank, this is what I had as a treat at my birthday party when I was a kid, and having them have their first root beer, and instead once again, it's something local, it's a tradition. Kids love that. They yearn to be part of their parents' childhood in a sense, and they're endlessly curious about that. So it's just a great way. It's a heritage. It's part of the community, and to bring it back home to the subject of the conversation. Let's look at this tax, and how much, for example, like you said, on a case. I know you told us in the opening of the show. How much would this add to the price of a case of soda?
It's going to add 25% on this. So it's it's $4.32. It's going to add to a case of soda.
Right. In this market, particularly in urban areas, very often soda is a treat. It's for families who are on a tighter budget, it's something that's an add-on. If you're looking at adding $4 or $5 to the price of a product, and then you've got all the other things on top of that the government's done. You're competing as it is in a space with national organizations. Again, no shots at the big guys, but who are able to, on certain times of the year, sell a 12-pack of soda for $2.50. Is it possible to compete on price with these guys for an organization like yours? Is that even?
No, you can't do it, and we don't even try.
Right.
It's just most people recognize it's a high quality premium product, and it's just not. We don't even look at them as our competition. Even though there's people that are going to seek out craft soda, and there's people that are going to just want their as you say, refinery soda, right, as you call it. But so we don't try and convert people, but the people that appreciate us, we appreciate them.
Right. So if that continues to spread, because ultimately, as we all know, that the pricing practices of large food manufacturers are geared toward existing within the planograms of large supermarkets. To a certain degree, they've got, because they operate on such larger economies of scale, the opportunity to internalize some of that cost in order to hit that 99-cent price point for a 2-liter, or the 4 for $10 at the Mega Mart, on holiday weekends. So you guys can't, and so what government is effectively doing by leveraging this tax on top of already a challenging environment, because you've got the same workman's comp and insurance and property taxes and all the other challenges of running a business.
And licenses and all this other stuff that they want from you.
Right. Folks, if you haven't run a business before, I'm not here to talk down to you per se. If you've worked for other companies, that's wonderful. That's your personal choice. But for those who are driven to create high quality products like Avery's and Yacht Club, or any one of other food products, in a market where the barriers to entry are so significant and the barriers to survival are so challenging, it's not as simple as just $4. And the folks, this is me speaking, not our guests, and the folks who run government have a kind of an interesting way of kind of rationalizing it, as if it's not a lot of money, and as if, well, they'll manage to survive, they'll be able to internalize. They can't. We lord these prices on top of businesses, and I use that term intentionally, and they're toxic. And they kill jobs. They kill family business, generational family businesses. And they eat away at part of our lifestyle. And that's what I've been trying to paint a portrait of tonight. I don't know if I've done a great job or not, but what I've tried to do is paint a portrait of how a simple food product, which is the result of, in two local cases, 100 plus years of craft, how much it adds value to our lives, how much it just adds sheer fun to our lives. And as we continue as a culture to homogenize into the same bland stuff that you get, whether it be you're in Indiana or the Midwest or whether you're in Rhode Island or Connecticut, we lose part of ourselves. We lose memories, we lose culture, we lose fun, and at the same time, we take away opportunities for folks who are talented. I consider myself a relatively smart person. I couldn't do what these folks do. The combination of business smarts, the food production skills necessary, the ability to taste test, the marketing, kind of the innate marketing skills that these folks have. That's not something that you can easily put together. And when we lose them, very often, they never come back. That's what's important, why we love to live in New England and why we love to live in America, because despite being this large national economic force, there is still, and they're going away, folks, but there is still all these great family businesses that add so much to our daily lives. And that's what's in trouble here, as, again, what I call, my words, not my guess, the human scolds attempt to make their own hay politically, and at the same time potentially take out invaluable parts of the community like Avery's and like Soda. It more than troubles me. Quite frankly, it breaks my heart. I don't want to be one of those parts of the country. I don't know how well traveled you are, Mr. Metz. I've spent a lot of time on the highways and byways. Like most Irishmen, I'm kind of maudlinly poetic about it. But there are parts of the country where you drive from one exit on the interstate to the next, and you see the same 4 stores and the same 4 corners. And we don't do that here in New England still. You know, Soggy's hot dogs. I'm sure you guys have a local hot dog and a local sausage. You know, local everything. And we need to recognize that it's the skills of people like yours that add the value to our lives. Have you got a message you'd like to send to folks here in Rhode Island and elsewhere as we play this around the country?
Well, you know, I think what you said was spot on as far as and I haven't necessarily totally thought about it the way you put it, but yeah, all these little pieces of Americana, once they're gone, and I think it's important to keep them around. So what you put it much better than I could, but that's exactly what the issue is.
When are we going to have a sodathon here in Rhode Island? When are you going to bring a couple of your cases out? We'll put them on ice, and we'll have folks have their own blind taste tests, all in fun. That's what I want to spawn some competition here. I want to generate business for everybody.
I think we need to have just a soda fest. So we don't have to really be competitive about it, but we could just have a little soda fest and have everybody try everything.
Right. Well, no, it's wonderful. I mean, I just want to congratulate what you and your company and your associates and family do. I don't doubt, as I've seen so many cases, where your talents could be much more financially rewarding if you took your expertise to one of these large corporations. But I also am jealous of the way of life you have, having this kind of outlet for your creativity, your passion, and I think it's wonderful, and we're gonna reach out to our political friends in Connecticut, and kind of get them to gin up the same kind of passion and outrage to fight this as our friends here in Rhode Island have done.
I appreciate that.
It's we will not, as they say, go gently into that good night. So, well, listen, thank you very, very much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been fun chatting, and keep up the good work.
All right, and so give time for shameless plugs. Where can folks find your stuff? Where can they buy and try Avery Sodas, particularly if they go down to Connecticut, if they're on vacation, if they're taking their kid to one of the colleges or something? Give us some ideas where they can see you online and where they can find your sodas.
Okay, definitely online. We can ship anywhere in the country. We ship 12 packs all over the place. So the website is averysoda.com, and as far as where to find it, right here at the shop in New Britain, it's a great little road trip. We do. Most Saturdays we do little tours. We show people around. Whenever we're bottling, we have to show people around. So, if you're ever in the mood for a road trip, bring the kids. You can see we're kind of a working museum, so you can see how a 100-year-old soda factory works, and sometimes we let the kids make their own sodas. So it's a good time. So that would be my shameless plug.
There you go. Thank you so much. Good luck, and I'm sure you and I are going to talk soon.
Thanks much.
All right, folks. Avery Sodas, in a sense, under the same type of, my words, attack from an onerous, targeted form of taxation that our good friends, our local legends, Yacht Club Soda is under. This seems to be a trend. And unfortunately, this type of pernicious attack is happening all over the country. So take some time, reach out to local politicians, let's end this, and most importantly, take some time this year to support financially your local soda bottler, your local food purveyor, your local, whatever that local cult favorite is. Don't assume that's always going to be there. As I end this segment, I'll leave you a thought about one of our own local cult favorites, Benny's. I happen to live on the Rhode Island North Attleboro border, and the Benny's store that was up the street from us, that was there forever, has been sort of ripped to shreds. There's going to be something else. The building won't go away. There is going to be a different logo up there. The last vestiges of the red signs and what's left of the labeling is now long gone. But we all took it for granted. Benny's was always going to be there. We had a little ornament. We all knew the Benny's smell when you went into a Benny's. That was that sort of rubbery-like smell from all the bicycle tires and all the tires for the vehicles. That was one of their subspecialties. Until one day it wasn't. And there was no long farewell, really. A few weeks. It was very, very sad. There was no time to try and get a recovery underway or for folks to step up and support Benny's. One day we woke up and it wasn't there anymore. It was too damn late. And the people at Benny's needed to make a financial decision, and they did so. Because ultimately businesses are owned for the benefit of their shareholders. And they made the decision that they couldn't compete with the new way the products are sold. And that ended a great era in retailing here in Rhode Island. Significantly, with the exception of the great folks at Ocean State Job Lot, most merchants into Rhode Island are no longer locally based. So you lose that local connection, you lose the local flavor, and a part of our lives is gone. And the saddest part is the next generation won't even know what they're missing. Let's not let that happen with great brands like Yacht Club and Connecticut Avery's. Folks, we're going to take a 3 or 4 minute break or so. Coming on in the 7 o'clock hour is the inimitable force of nature, Bella Robinson with Coyote, RI. Call off your old, tired ethics. There are all sorts of rumblings underfoot up at Halitosis Hall. All credit to Rudy Cheeks, or as I like to call it, Mordor. Study commissions, conversations, taxes, decrim. It's been an ongoing part of the show's coverage for, well, the 5 years that we've been around. As I said, we are celebrating sort of a semi-anniversary. We're going to be taking sort of a public radio approach to asking you to help us support our mission, which is to discuss the local flavor, we just did, third rail issues that no one else wants to touch, the decriminalization of prostitution, hashtag sex work is real work, is something that we've discussed literally since the beginning. Help us continue to carry that flag of all of these issues. You can do it at Patreon/The Coalition Radio. If you're a local business, we'd ask you to consider doing some very moderately priced local advertising. Or if you're just a listener and you want to help out in a very simple way, like us or follow us at The Coalition Radio on the Facebook at facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_Radio, and of course the mothership, coalitionradio.us. It's a chilly night here at the Naked City. Another hour or so, I expect to see all of you downtown, engaging in revelry, foolishness, mischief, nonsense. Because we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back.